How is it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video here on the Analyst Extra channel. Today, we are going to be back at you talking everything to do with running. No actual running from myself today, but what I'm going to be doing is going through and answering a load of questions that you guys have put over to me on Twitter regarding running, how to get started, motivation, and all of that stuff. If you aren't following me on Twitter, you want to get any questions answered and that sort of thing, a link in the description for that. And if you do enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button and you can subscribe to the channel. Now, what we're going to do is go through, answer all these questions, discuss everything. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one and see how we can help out. So the first question is from Sam. He has asked, what time did we aim for and what time did we finish when we completed our marathon? If you don't know, we did complete a marathon on the 30th of November 2019. Quite a long time ago now, not much running since then. The time that we were aiming for was under 4 hours. We managed to do the Birmingham Half Marathon in 1 hour and 49 minutes, and I felt like under 4 hours was a push, but it was kind of where we wanted to go for. Now, I completed the Birmingham Half Marathon in October. I then ran once after the Birmingham Half Marathon in between that and the marathon at the end of November. So I really didn't get much training in after that half marathon. So, it completely ruined my time. We ended up finishing it in 4 hours and 49 minutes, which was a little bit longer than what I wanted to. But give it being my first marathon, no real running experience before training for this marathon, I was still relatively happy that I managed to finish it. I did the half marathon time in that marathon in about 2 hours and 8 minutes, if I remember correctly. I'll put up all the stats on the screen for you. It's been a while since I've looked at them, but it was just over 2 hours, which once I hit that point, I knew I'm not going to be hitting 4 hours. There's no way, given the conditions on the day as well. It was very icy. It was very cold. I wasn't prepared for the conditions that we had, which was bad on my end. And that makes it a little bit harder. The lack of running obviously makes it more difficult as well. But given that it was my first marathon, the main thing was getting it done. I just had to make sure I got it done, and having that reason, obviously doing it for my granddad for charity, I was always going to finish that marathon regardless of the time limit, the time that it would have taken me. So yeah, 4 hours and 49 minutes was at the time that we finished that. Was very, very proud and very happy that we managed to finish even in that time, even though it wasn't what I went for. When I got there on the day, I knew you're not going to do this in 4 hours. That was what the plan was, to do it throughout the training. Then the lack of training after the half marathon made that very difficult for me, which is only me to blame. There's no one else that I can, put at fault for that. It's me at the end of the day that does the running. So I knew that, that wasn't going to be achievable, but we still managed to get it done, and that was the main thing. So thank you for the question, Sam. Do appreciate it. Next question is from Lee. He has asked, how did you get started and where did you find the motivation to keep doing it regularly, and also any good running playlist? First of all, I made my own running playlist, tunes that you're happy to listen to kind of go in with it. The reason for me running, how I got started was deciding it was something I always wanted to do in my life. You have these like life goals where you're like, I really want to do this, I really want to do that. You want to go skydiving. One of the ones for me was being able to say, I've ran a marathon. And that's where it kind of stemmed from. Looking after my granddad, being very close to my granddad with the Alzheimer's and dementia that came on, I wanted to do something for him, really. And I raised, obviously, money and helped the charity out, which is fantastic. But really, I think it was something more of closure for me, if that makes sense. Once that marathon came around, because my granddad wasn't not that he wasn't my granddad, he wasn't the man that, he once was. That was my way to, even though he was still alive then, he passed away obviously early on in this year. It was my way of saying bye to him, if that makes sense. Every run I went out on was to remember everything about my granddad and my nan and, me growing up and, the childhood that they gave me. So every run, that was always on the back of my mind. The marathon, that was on the back of my mind. I used to put in my playlist a lot of Elvis songs. My granddad and nan loved Elvis. So when I didn't want to get out there and I didn't want to run after a long day at work, when I was selling cars for a living, I'll be leaving the house just before 8 o'clock in the morning, getting back at, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, having some food, and I'll be going out on a run really, really late in the summer. Luckily enough, it was still quite bright, in the summer months when I was training. It's very hard to get out there and carry on running. But some days I'd get out and I'd be like, I can't be bothered with this. I'd chuck my playlist on. I'd have my normal Eminem, 50 Cent, 360, whatever it is that you're into, Bullet for My Valentine, Slipknot. Soon as one of those Elvis songs came on, it was like something just tap, just a switch, and it was a you're doing this not for you. You're not doing this for anything. This is for your granddad and to raise money for a fantastic charity. That makes it much easier. Having that reason, having that drive to do it. If you just say, I'm just going to start running, you're going to have days where you just, at the minute, I'm just doing this, I'll get into it in a bit, but obviously I'm not doing this directly for anything, let's say. It's much harder to motivate yourself to get out there once you've had a day at work or something's gone on. What I'd really say is start off nice and easy. Pick 1 or 2 days a week. You're going to get out running. It's not go and do 10 miles. It's go and do a mile, go and do 2 miles, go and do 2-minute run, 1-minute walk, whatever it is at your level. If it's more than what you would normally do, that's a bonus. Take it small steps at a time, So even if you go, I don't want to get out today, I really am not feeling it. Once you put those shoes on and you get out the door, get those legs moving, it becomes much, much easier, all right? It becomes much easier. It's the initial getting the shoes on and getting out the door, which is the hardest thing. So just remember, if it's more than what you would have done last week before you started taking this, small steps at a time. That's probably the best advice I can give you there. Mal has moved over and asked, how long did you train for and how many days a week would you run? I signed up for the marathon in late May, start of June was when I really kicked on with my training. For the first few weeks, I took a big step back because I suffered from shin splints. I did too much too early. I was quite a big guy back then, still quite overweight now. And getting out there and doing the mileage, which I thought was acceptable, within a week, I could not walk. I couldn't run. I couldn't walk. It made it very difficult. Once I was in my prime of training, I would train 4 days a week, really. And the length, obviously, training, was from June up until October was solid months with a few hiccups here and there. As soon as that half marathon in October came around, November, I did nothing. So a good 4 months of training, we would say. And then obviously the last month I did very, very little. And it was, 4 days a week of training consistently. On the off days, I might fully rest, which I would do most days. But then some days I'd also go to the gym. Some days I'd do a run and the gym. Because the missus wanted to go to the gym, I was running. I'd do both. Some days, not often, but some days I would do that. And then on every off day, I'd always make sure that I stretch and that I would always do foam rolling. So you can get a foam roller to really, help those muscles kind of repair and everything. That was really, really good for me. Gavin has asked, how do you keep the motivation to run when you are starting out? And do you think the benefits of running outside outweigh the benefits of using a treadmill? I've kind of answered it with, the motivation to run, but you've got to find your own purpose, as I said. In terms of treadmill versus outside running, if you are, you can't get outside, you're at home, you've got a treadmill, you've got kids around. My brother has kids, he can't get out all the time. Sometimes it's easier for him to jump on a treadmill. If you can get outside, that should be your main focus. Running on a treadmill feels like you're not getting the most out of it. To me, because you're not seeing that progression, you're not actually running anywhere. I can run, do a few laps of my estate and go, I've done a few laps here. And you feel like, you accomplished that you've done it. On a treadmill, you don't get that. It has a bit of a bounce in it. Running on a treadmill can be better if you do suffer with shin splints from the research that I've done. Again, do your own research. I'm not a running coach. So that helped me on that front. I try to avoid running at all costs outside. You don't have the wind coming against you. So then if you run only on a treadmill and then you go and do a race, it's gonna be harder. Trust me, it's gonna be harder. You might bang out a 10k time on a treadmill. You go and do that outside with hills, with a little bit of incline, with a change of terrain, whether it's grass, concrete. You're gonna struggle massively. If you can get outside, please try and prioritize that. The good thing about running as well is getting outside into nature and really giving yourself a bit of fresh air and having time to think about something. When you're inside in a treadmill at a gym, there's lots going on. There's distractions. It just, to me, doesn't feel the same. As I said, though, it is down to you as the individual. If for whatever reason you can't get outside, if the weather's atrocious and you can get to the gym and do a treadmill run, it's better doing that than doing nothing. But for me, I would always prioritize getting outside and actually running out on the roads. Some random guy comes in and says, we would like something like a road to glory on your running. How does someone start from scratch? Warm-ups, cool-downs, do's and don'ts. That is something I will do on this channel for you. Again, I will stress I'm not I'm not a running coach. This is all going off my experience. You have to do your own research. Go to someone that is fully qualified and trained with all this. But I will give you my experiences, what works for me, what doesn't, and all that sort of stuff in future videos. So thank you for the question, my man. That'll be coming very, very soon. Aero has asked, do you put Vaseline on your nipples? On my longer runs, I've got a massive tub of Vaseline, only used for running purposes before anyone comments anything. And yeah, I would put Vaseline on my nipples. I'd put it on my crotch, up my arse crack. I'd put it everywhere, literally everywhere, anywhere that rubs. When you're a big guy, your legs, can rub, chafe in the middle. Don't make that mistake. If you're running for a long period of time, you're going to get, a bit of friction from your shirt against your nipples, from your legs against your leg, your man parts on your man part. Like, just put Vaseline down there, all right? Man up, just get it in. When you first do it, you are not going to feel comfortable. I used to go and run at some woods, and it would be a drive to get there. I'd pull up, I'd stay in the car, I'd get the Vaseline out, do what I need to do, and then you get out and go running. At first, you're going to feel like a crazy man. The tales and the stories you can hear from some runners with all of their sort of experiences on that sort of thing, it's very odd. Yeah, there's not many sports out there where you do that sort of thing, but it's worth it. Trust me, I went out on one run. I never did it before. It was a longer run. I think it was about 5 miles. As I was early on in my training, I got back. Whoo, did my legs burn? My legs burn right, in between where you don't want it. Wasn't comfortable. Going to work the next day, you're walking along. It's not a nice thing to be put through. Get some Vaseline. Make sure you use it when you're going out on your longer runs. Callum comes in and says, did you have a personal trainer or someone help you with training for your marathon? So I did go to an online coach originally to kind of get the structure of what training should look like, feedback, help, questions, everything. I tried to do it for myself at the start, and I got those shin splints. I followed an online training program, and it just went to pot. That was when I went to someone and played like an online coach again who was qualified, got all the qualifications and everything. And if you've got that as an option, I'd recommend doing that. If not, there's loads of free content out there online. There's loads of stuff you can go and look through. There's loads of plans you can follow. Something as simple as a couch to 5K can really help. Honestly, with running, it is very much you are an individual, right? I am completely different to you. You are completely different to the thousands of other people that run. You can't compare yourself to anyone else. Height, weight, if you've got any previous medical conditions, if you've got asthma. Me and the missus, if we go running, she's got asthma, she's not great on that side of thing. I can, luckily enough, when I was back in school, I was a cross-country runner. I've always been able to run fairly well. So even though I don't run that often now, if I really, really wanted to, I could probably go and run a good 6-7 miles without keeling over and needing to. I'd have to take it at a slow pace, but I could probably go and do that. And that's just because of my lung capacity and just being able to do it. And that's kind of comes in my blood, let's say. So you can go to someone, you can get the help. If you can't, that's fine. Just listen to your body. If you get out there and you get back and the next day you're hardly walking, your shins are hurting, your knees are hurting, your ankles are hurting, make sure you're doing your stretches, make sure you're warming up properly, you're cooling down properly, and if it's still doing it, drop it down a little bit. When you first start out, it's time on feet. If you need to walk, walk and then run, you can do that. It's not about just going out there and going, I ran 5 miles in this time. Oh, I did a 10K in this time. I did a 5K in this time. No one cares really. It's you as the individual. As long as you're getting out there and I've done more than what I would, as I said before, done more than what I would do a week ago, 2 weeks ago. That's a massive win. So that's kind of what I did. It really, really helped me. After about 2 months of having that, trainer, I then left that side of things and carried on with myself. And the trainer said, look, this is how much you need to increase each week by. This is what, you should get to about, I think it was about 20 miles. Was it 18 miles or 20 miles? I think on my plan, I was meant to get to a 20-miler, as my last long training run before the marathon. Obviously, I never did that. My longest training run before the marathon was, I think it was 11 miles. Was it 13? Something like that, around that sort of mark. But yeah, so, you can bring someone on, or you can just do your research yourself and go from there. Mighty Redman has asked, does Strava include a program which you would follow, or did you enter those 2 times 2 mins run sprint? If not, any good apps which you can tell me on the runs throughout the weeks? Again, it's how you want to do this. If you want like free running programs, you can go on something like Runner's World. They've got loads of programs on there. You can literally just type into Google running for beginners and go through and pick one, right? If you look at it and it says go and run 8 miles in your first week on your first run, that's obviously not a good plan. If you look at it and go, yeah, probably about right, follow it. At the end of the day, people get too caught up in do this, do that. This is the best plan. This is the best diet. Just get started, get it going. And once you've done 2-3 weeks of running, you'll start to understand what you're good at doing when you are running. You might enjoy going up hills. You might enjoy, the runs where you go out, you run and then you sprint and you do some interval training. You will get an understanding of your body and how it works. Don't get too caught up in training programs. If you aren't training for a marathon, it's not that you don't need to track your runs and get your mileage in. As a general rule, you want to increase your mileage by no more than 10% a week. If you run 1 mile in 1 week, you're only going to increase that by 0.1 of a mile next week, 1.1. And that's kind of how you're going to do it. So if you're going to run 5 miles in your first week, you're then going to go to 5.5 miles. And that, as a general rule, keeps a steady progression and gets you to a point where you'll go, I'm happy running 10 miles a week. I've got 3 or 4 runs spread out over that. And that is helping me stay fit, stay active. I'm enjoying that. At the end of the day, when you're training for a marathon specifically, the time you need to do that is very, very time consuming, all right? On my day off from work, my 1 day off, it would be go and run a 10-mile training run. It's just not a walk in the park. It takes out a good few hours out of your day. When you're just running for the sake of running, for your health and for enjoyment, you'll get to a mileage where you go, yeah, I'm happy doing this amount of training. If I was going to go and spend that time in the gym and do weights, I'd then go and do an hour or something, and it equates to that. So just go find something. Runner's World, I swear a lot of stuff on there. There's some stuff that's not as good as the others, but you can get a fair few decent idea and a lot of your basic information that you'll need to get a plan put together. JG has come in and asked, what trainers did you run in? I picked up the pair of Nike Zoom Pegasus Turbo. I picked them up about 2-3 weeks into my training, I believe. I bought some running shoes and they didn't fit me. They were the wrong size. I'd recommend, if you are going to get some running shoes, go to a running shop. You can get what's called a gait analysis, where they track, it's not very expensive. They track how you run. Are you imbalanced on one side? How do you your feet line up? What shoes would suit you better? You don't have to do this, but it can really, really help. They recommended, this is how your feet go. This is the size. You're better off going for this sort of brand. They weren't pushy. For anyone that's interested, I went to a shop in Worcester. Let me just quickly find you it before I tell you, because that wouldn't be fair. I went to a shop in Worcester that were really, really good. So good that I can't remember their name. The Active Foot Company. That was a company that I went to. I'd really recommend finding someone like that. They weren't pushy. They were really helpful in there. So if you're around that sort of area, I'll fully recommend them. I then went and picked up some Nike Zoom Pegasus Turbo. They've been really, really good for me. They do say that running shoes last about 300 to 500 miles. I'm probably getting close to that now. I'm probably borderline that, so I could do a change in mind at some point in the near future. Don't go out and splash hundreds of pounds. Mine were about 120 if I remember correctly. You can pick up some decent running shoes for 60 quid or something. Just do your research again, find what works for you, try some on, and then kind of take it from there. Igor has asked, how do you keep going when you get a stitch? Stitches wasn't something that I suffered with too much. What I'd really recommend, if you are suffering from getting stitches when you're going out on a run, is making sure you're staying hydrated. You need to be getting a lot of water in when you're running. You need to make sure that you're not going out and running half an hour after eating. Give your body time to digest the food. You can have a little banana or something before you head out, but I really, really focus on that. Other thing is make sure you are breathing properly, in through your nose, out through your mouth as a general rule. If you're going maybe too quick or something, that can indicate a stitch as well. Keep it nice and simple. Make sure you hydrated, got the right nutrition in you, and all of that good stuff. And then to finish it off with, James has asked, would I do it again? Absolutely, 100%. The feeling of accomplishment that I had from running a marathon, specifically for my granddad, was one of the best feelings that I have had in my life. It was emotional. It was my farewell to my granddad as well at that time. Again, I know he was still here at that, but it wasn't the man that I really, I knew, obviously, in that kind of sense. This is to answer kind of in Dino's question as well. I want to run a marathon each year for my granddad as my way of remembering him And keeping myself fit and thinking about, the future and what the future has to hold. Life is very precious in that sense. Things can be taken away from you a lot. And I want to be able to remember everything that my granddad did for me and, what I did for him. And kind of keeping his memory going. And if I can do that in my running, that's where I want to be. So absolutely 100%, I will be doing it again. As I said, my aim is to run a marathon every year where possible. So then, I hope you have enjoyed this question and answer. If you have any further questions and you want to leave them down in the comment section, you're more than welcome to, or you can tweet me on Twitter and I'll happily get back to you. Thank you all very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you did enjoy, please let me know by dropping a like and you can subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.